Something shocking is happening behind the scenes of Sister Wives, and the truth might finally explain why the entire show could be coming to an end. The family that once claimed to be stronger together is now completely divided. Businesses are popping up, money questions are rising, and even the stars themselves are hinting that the future of the show is uncertain. So before we break down the real story and the secrets fans are just starting to notice, make sure you subscribe right now, because this channel brings you the most shocking reality TV updates you will not hear anywhere else. Meri once believed that every step she took inside the family had a deeper purpose, even when those steps were painful, confusing, or quietly heartbreaking. She told herself that sacrifice was part of building something larger, something that would last forever. And for many years, that belief carried her through moments when she felt invisible, unheard, or pushed aside. The moment that symbolized that sacrifice more than anything else was the day she considered stepping aside legally so that Kody could marry Robyn. At first, Meri described that decision as something small, almost procedural, something she believed was simply necessary for the family to move forward with adopting Robyn's children. She explained that when the idea first entered her mind, she believed she would quietly sign the divorce papers and disappear from the moment she thought she would let the rest of the family move forward however they needed, while she stood in the background, believing she had done the right thing. But as conversations around that decision continued, something slowly shifted. The way it was framed began to change. It was no longer presented as just Meri's private sacrifice. It became something the family described as a shared effort, a team decision, a moment that would strengthen the entire household. And because of that subtle shift, Meri started to feel like maybe she should be there when it happened. Maybe she should witness the new legal marriage she had made possible. Maybe that moment would somehow confirm that her sacrifice mattered. Yet, years later, as the story unfolds in front of millions of viewers, that memory feels far more complicated than it once did, because the reality behind the scenes appears very different from the narrative that was originally presented to the public. The show Sister Wives once promised viewers a rare look inside a plural family, something few people in mainstream society had ever truly seen before. Audiences tuned in out of curiosity, wanting to understand how one man could maintain relationships with multiple wives, and how those women navigated sharing a husband while raising children together. It was a dynamic that felt unusual, emotional, and unpredictable. And for many seasons, the show built its identity around that concept. But today, the situation looks nothing like it did in the beginning. The family that once described itself as one united household has slowly separated into completely different lives. Christine left the marriage entirely, choosing independence and eventually finding a new partner. Janelle stepped away from the relationship as well, focusing on her own growth and her children. Meri herself eventually acknowledged that her relationship with Kody had effectively ended long before the cameras captured it, leaving Robyn as the only wife still in a legal marriage with him, which means the plural family that once defined the series no longer truly exists. And that transformation has left many viewers wondering whether the show itself can survive without the very premise that made it unique. The ratings numbers suggest that audiences may already be losing interest because during earlier seasons, especially when major life changes were unfolding, millions of people tuned in each week, eager to see what would happen next. But recent seasons have struggled to maintain the same level of excitement. Part of the reason appears to be the timeline. The show often airs events long after they have already played out in real life, which means viewers already know the outcome before the episode even begins. Another reason is that several members of the family have begun speaking more openly about how the show was produced and how some storylines were shaped or guided by producers in order to create a stronger narrative. When Christine discussed parts of this process in her book, it sparked a wave of discussion among fans. Many whom began questioning how much of what they watched was authentic and how much was carefully constructed for television. Meri herself has also made statements that surprised audiences, including explaining that she never truly felt she had the power to prevent other wives from entering the family. As the conversation about the future of the Brown family continues, another layer of the story slowly comes into focus, one that goes far beyond the emotional conflicts viewers watched on television for years. Because what once looked like a stable structure built around a shared belief system has now transformed into something completely different, and the shift has forced both the audience and the family members themselves to confront a difficult question. Was the unity they presented ever sustainable, or was it always fragile beneath the surface? When Sister Wives first premiered, it introduced viewers to a lifestyle that many people had never seen portrayed in mainstream television. The idea of one man sharing his life with multiple wives, raising children together, and presenting themselves as one large cooperative family sparked curiosity across the country. People watched to understand how the system worked, how jealousy was managed, how responsibilities were divided, and how the emotional needs of so many individuals could possibly be balanced within one relationship structure. But as the seasons progressed, the complexity of that lifestyle became more visible. Disagreements that once seemed minor began turning into deeper emotional divisions, and moments that were originally framed as simple misunderstandings started revealing patterns of frustration, disappointment, and emotional distance. The most dramatic turning point came when Christine made the decision to leave the marriage entirely, a moment that changed the trajectory of the show almost overnight. Because for the first time, the idea that the plural marriage could fall apart was no longer theoretical. It was real, and it forced everyone involved to examine the future in a way they had never done before. Christine's departure did not just affect her relationship with Kody, it reshaped the emotional balance of the entire family. Janelle soon began reevaluating her own position, recognizing that the connection she once believed in had changed over time. Meri, who had already experienced years of emotional distance, acknowledged that her relationship had quietly ended long before it was publicly confirmed. And suddenly, the structure that once included 4 wives and 1 husband had narrowed to a single legal marriage between Kody and Robyn, leaving viewers with a version of the story that looked nothing like the original premise of the series. This transformation has created an unusual viewing experience, because the show still carries the title Sister Wives, even though the lifestyle it was built around has effectively disappeared. The remaining episodes often follow each woman living separate lives in different states, building new careers, forming new relationships, and redefining their identities outside the boundaries that once defined them. For Christine, the change has meant embracing a completely new chapter, including marriage to David and exploring projects that allow her to travel, connect with fans, and share her personal journey of independence. For Janelle, the shift has focused on rebuilding financial stability, strengthening relationships with her children, and creating a home environment that reflects the independence she values. Meri, meanwhile, continues navigating her own transformation through business ventures, personal development programs, and public conversations where she reflects on lessons learned from the past. Each of these paths represents a departure from the shared household that once served as the center of the show. And while those individual stories remain compelling, they no longer connect through the same central theme that once held the narrative together. Audiences can sense that change, and many have started questioning whether the show can continue without reinventing itself entirely. The ratings decline seen in recent seasons reflects that uncertainty, because viewers who originally tuned in for a unique look at plural marriage now find themselves watching a series that feels more like a collection of separate biographies. The emotional investment that once came from seeing the entire family interact during holidays, gatherings, and daily routines has been replaced by occasional updates from individuals who rarely share the same space anymore. At the same time, another challenge has emerged for the production itself. The timeline of the show has struggled to keep pace with real-life events, meaning that viewers often watch episodes depicting situations that happened years earlier. By the time those scenes air, the outcomes have already been discussed publicly through social media, interviews, podcasts, and books, which removes much of the suspense that reality television typically relies on to keep audiences engaged. This delay has created a strange dynamic where fans feel like they already know the ending before the episode even begins, and when combined with the growing awareness that some storylines were shaped by production decisions, it has caused many viewers to question the authenticity of what they are watching. However, even with these challenges, the show continues to exist largely because of the financial structure that supports reality television. Unscripted programming requires fewer resources than scripted shows, which means networks can continue producing it as long as the cost remains lower than the revenue it generates from advertising and distribution. And for the cast members themselves, the series still represents a significant source of visibility and income, which explains why several of them have begun quietly building businesses and alternative careers while the cameras are still rolling. Christine has explored and that is why the future of Sister Wives may be closer to the end than anyone expected. The family has changed, the story has shifted, and the truth behind the scenes is finally coming out. But this might only be the beginning of an even bigger reveal. So if you want the latest reality TV breakdowns and shocking updates, make sure you subscribe right now and join this growing community, because the next story might be even more unbelievable.